Hi, WFMers out there. I'm your host, Irina, and this is WFM Unfiltered, a podcast by WFM, the place where we share the truth about workforce management. So get comfortable and listen closely. Hey, everyone, and happy. What day is it today,
It's
John?
Wednesday.
Happy Wednesday. We're pretending that it's Tuesday today. So, happy Wednesday, everyone, and welcome to another episode of WFM Unfiltered. I'm your host, Irina, and I have someone special today in store for us. But before I introduce you to my guest, as a quick reminder, please hit that subscribe button. It's really helping the show. And if you're in need of any WFM assistance, you can check www.wfm.com or reach out directly to me. And with that, enough of the business. Let's move into the topic of today and to the guest of today. Hey, John, how are you doing?
Super grateful to be here and to be talking on your podcast. It's very proud of you for what you've started here. I think it's awesome.
I just want to make a quick note that I think, John, yours was the first podcast that I've ever been a part of. And I was absolutely terrified and horrified. And you did such a great job of just calming me down and put my stress behind me. So thank you so much for actually starting the journey for me. I'm the one who is so grateful for you.
No, it's really cool. And I ended up discontinuing my podcast when I started the Contact Center AI Association just because I got too busy. Got too busy to juggle it all. It's a lot. It's a lot of work. And so I love. It's fun now to be on the receiving end of your podcast. And yeah, it's a big fan of what you're doing.
Thank you so much. And a bit of a disclaimer, I'm not so kind as you are. So I'm used to throw curveballs at my guests because I want to spark a very good conversation. But I don't want to jump into the topic before I give you the opportunity to share a little bit about your background.
Yeah, thank you. So my name is John Walter. I practiced law for almost a decade before entering into the customer support industry. One of my clients in the legal practice was involved in customer support outsourcing, and that's originally what got me involved in the industry. About 2 months after I started working full time in the customer support industry, I saw the arrival of ChatGPT, and we just saw that as being a very monumental technology as that would be very influential to the industry. And so that just led me to start diving into that and having a lot of conversations. That's what inspired my initial podcast. But all of those conversations led to the creation of the Contact Center AI Association, which is a 501c3 nonprofit, which has a charitable purpose of education. And all we do is bring together customer support and CX leaders to come into closed door settings where they can honestly talk about the issues they're facing, what's working, what's not working, in an environment that's safe and where nothing's broadcast and nothing's recorded. And that's where we distill a lot of insights about what are the real pain points that are facing the industry and how companies are going about solving it in their internal operations. And then our goal is to clean up and upon those insights and distribute them as broad as we can throughout the industry for free. That's our mission. And so that's been going on for a little over a year. We have chapters in Atlanta, New York City, and then we had our first chapter meeting in San Jose, California, just south of San Francisco, a week or two ago. I think that was last week. And then in Q4, we plan to open a chapter in Austin, Texas. And then we're trying to get better about having a cadence of LinkedIn live events, more public facing content. And so that's something that we're striving towards. So that's a lot of my time as helping with that association. We have probably about 20 to 25 prominent customer support leaders at various organizations, not on the vendor side, more on the I call them in-house. I call them in-house leaders just because I come from the laws. You have like in-house counsel, you have outside counsel. So I call them in-house. I call them the in-house leaders that they volunteer in a variety of capacities. And so if anybody here is listening, there's ways to get involved, whether it's we have an education committee that meets once a month for 30 minutes, about a dozen CX leaders hop on a Zoom call and identify, hey, you won't believe what happened to us this month. And we need to develop some educational content around this. And then everyone kind of talks about, oh, hey, here's someone I know who has relevant experience we can bring in as a thought leader on this topic. So that's how that works. And then we have a steering committee. It's a little bit smaller right now, but it could have some room to grow a little bit more, where it just guides the structure and the mission of the association. So they help us make decisions on issues. Okay, if somebody in the community asks for a product recommendation in the Slack channel, like, well, how do we handle that? Like, we're going to make sure that no one's trying to monetize that opportunity within this community, and making sure it's just purely education and I'm sorry, it's been baked into my mind. It's almost like when you're trying to get testimony from a witness, you want to eliminate bias, and to the extent there is bias, you want to call it out and try to remove it from the equation. And so it's a similar thing happening in that context. Then finally, I know it's a bit of a tirade. And this is why I might have dark circles under the eyes, because I do a lot. Because in addition to the association, we've got this. A year ago, I just came across this issue in the industry that I found very interesting, which is inbound calls, chats, and emails from AI that's hitting the call center. And how do companies make sure that their operations are secure and efficient with those types of requests? And so I started ProxyLink as a company that all we do is authenticate. We help companies authenticate inbound AI communications.
I am so impressed with everything that you're doing. And most of all, I don't think I have ever heard about a lawyer that doing something with AI. It's, I don't know, a very strange combination, but one that it's definitely needed in the market, because that's one of the things that we spoke a little bit about it. I'm highly annoyed when the topics about AI comes up, because I'm of the belief that a lot of people / companies are coming up with the buzzword of AI and are selling you air and complete BS. And I always freaking hate when you cannot give me specific examples. So another disclaimer, I love AI, I love automation, and I hate people that cannot give me examples and are just trying to gain more popularity for their stupid company or business that does nothing for you. Luckily, John, you have some stuff to tell me about it.
Yeah,
So,
I can share some specific examples, but something that's funny on that topic. When I was in San Francisco last week, I was at an event, and it was somebody I was talking with who was in charge. He was at a larger tech company that builds and sells AI technology into the enterprise, and he was telling me how their marketing director came over to him and was saying, "Okay, we need to start saying that we have agentic AI, that we have to have AI agents." And he was like, "But we don't have AI agents." and the marketing directors, "No, but we need to say this. We need." And I think a lot of companies feel that pressure each quarter or each month, however frequently it is, as there is this evolution. 2025 is definitely the year of AI agents. Here's a real world use case of AI agents that it's a bit different. You know what? Actually, you know what? You might not even call it an agent. You know what? Here's what I'll say. It's an agentic experience for a consumer. So when you think of an agent is something that can take something off your plate and handle a real world task. At least that's the way I define it. Maybe I'm wrong. It's somebody. So even the word agent, it comes down to the concept of the agency law. You have a principal and an agent. The principal directs the agent to take action, real world action on the principal's behalf. And what's happening in the consumer space is that despite great effort by many companies to deliver high quality customer experiences, in many cases, customers still find customer support to be frustrating. And that's a very kind way of explaining the industry. And what's happened is there's been this proliferation of consumer rights apps that allow consumers to delegate specific tasks that consumers find frustrating. One of those, for example, is subscription cancellation. Services like Rocket Money, Bill Shark, and now a proliferation of others like Experian. I hear that McAfee McAfee, the last time I heard about McAfee, they were doing these like antivirus, like computer malware virus, but now apparently they're canceling subscriptions now too. They make it easy for a consumer to delegate this task of subscription cancellation. And part of the way they do this is by introducing the opportunity to cancel at a time that's most convenient to the consumer. So it might be when they are using their budgeting app and they're identifying, okay, I'm falling short on meeting this goal. I need to cut some expenses. And the app, right, whether it's a banking app or whether it's a separate fintech app, you can, in many cases now, consumers can cancel subscriptions just by pushing a button. And so I won't go so far as to say this is, and maybe, I wouldn't say that this is like agentic AI from like a textbook definition that people might assign to it. Actually, I'd say it's definitely not. What's happening is consumers are having this experience of being able to delegate a task to an agent. So take out the AI part. They are delegating this task to Rocket Money. And Rocket Money, as an agent, not an AI agent, is because the terms of service between the consumer, and this would be a good title for this podcast episode, like real life agents, real world agents, and he's taking the AI out of it, like real life.
I'll let you name the episode. Okay,
Yes.
I'm gonna give you the right. You're the one only person that will ever name an episode on this show.
And so what's happening is, so the terms of service between the consumer and Rocket Money, for example, constitutes an agency agreement, which is so fascinating. And so the consumer, when they download the app, the consumer becomes a principal and Rocket Money becomes their agent. The consumer has certain legal rights and privileges as a consumer under federal and state law, of course, but then also under the contract that the consumer had previously entered into with the business that they're trying to cancel that subscription with. And when they enter into that agency agreement by signing that terms of service or clicking the terms of service that they agree to when they download the app for Rocket Money or any of the others that do this service, the legal rights and privileges of the consumer are then bestowed upon Rocket Money. Isn't that fascinating? And then Rocket Money has the ability to call this company on behalf of the consumer or to transact with this company on behalf of the consumer. And now what's starting to happen is that all of these companies that do these tasks for consumers they're starting to use AI bots to accomplish these transactions, whether it's over the phone, whether it's through email, whether it's through chat, whether they're logging into the website and doing it on the consumer's behalf. And so that's where I've been fascinated with this topic for I've been working full time, other than my duties with the association, the Contact Center AI Association, which are just volunteer, non-compensated duties. My full-time vocation has been trying to solve that problem of, okay, how does a call center set healthy boundaries, AI bots that try to call them? Because let's be honest, companies should be prioritizing human support for humans, not for bots. Bots are infinitely patient. They are, and they also need to go through heightened scrutiny for security purposes. And so, yeah.
I want to take you back because my mind starts to go in so many directions that I'm really fascinated about. But let's take a step back. Currently, the hype, especially in contact centers, is, okay, let's cut from the costs of having agents do stuff that bots or AI agents or whatever AI can do for you, which is great because I'm a big supporter of, if something can be automated. Why does somebody have to lose their time typing something manually that can be done in seconds and save you money, save efficiency, and use your people to do something more important, analyze the business, think of strategy, whatever it is, but don't do the stupid routine tasks. The other idea is, okay, if something can save time for the customer, that's also better for the business. Now, the problem is that currently the state of using AI bots in a lot of contact center is that I, as a customer, am getting frustrated because I cannot get to a human to explain exactly what I want. My use case is not in the menu, and I'm spending 15 minutes more trying to get the bot to tell me what tool I need to do with my case. and then I'm starting to get extremely frustrated with the company. So how do we work around that first scenario?
Yeah, it's very interesting. You're bringing up various different points when it comes to, and I want to clarify the question a bit because we could go down different paths.
Mhm.
Um, One thing I will say is there are certain ticket types, like you said, it makes sense to be automated in all cases on the company side, and and I'm not so far. My observation has been in the customer support space is that most contact centers are struggling to keep pace with the volume of support that comes in, and yes, and AI is helping them actually breathe for the first time and helping them get their head above water and actually adequately manage the volume that's coming in. But on the topic of consumer preferences,
Mhm.
there is there is there is a customer experience component to this when it comes to consumers delegating tasks to third parties. This is a premium service that consumers are paying for. Bill
Yeah.
Shark charges $5 per cancellation. $5. And it doesn't cost that, it doesn't take that much time to click around on a website to cancel something.
Mhm.
And Do Not Pay is another one of these services. They charge $18 a month. Rocket Money, I think, charges around like $10 to $12 a month. And so there is a lot of consumer demand for a more frictionless customer experience where they don't want to handle it. They don't want to handle it synchronously. Right now,
Mhm.
we're forcing customers to sit there with us and hold our hand the whole time
Yeah.
that the
Mhm.
company is helping them resolve their problem, when in reality, it's not urgent. The consumer just wants it being taken care of. It can be, even if it's something that's relatively complex, it can be handled asynchronously and kind of at the pace of email. But email is somewhat of an awkward customer support channel because it has a reputation for being slow, and it's a little bit more laborious. You have to sit there and think and type it out and thoroughly explain things. You send it, you wait 24 hours, and then something comes back. But imagine a circumstance where a consumer have a fully vetted conversation with their own AI assistant, fully explaining the concepts. And this AI assistant knows all of the facts that needs to be retrieved from the consumer in order to efficiently resolve that ticket. And so large language models are fabulous at this fact gathering. So you can tell them, hey, I need you to gather these 10 pieces of information and don't stop asking questions until you get all 10 pieces. And so imagine the consumer's AI. So on the consumer's own device, being
Mhm.
able that the consumer loves and trusts and perhaps used for a variety of purposes, not just for resolving problems. Maybe they talk to this AI about their relationship problems or their fitness goals or who knows what, and all of a sudden they're like, oh yeah, I need to do this task. And I think we're heading towards a future where the AI bots are going to be able to say, oh yeah, to answer this question, I'm just going to need to retrieve from this consumer these qualifying information pieces of information, and then it will be able to submit this request to the contact center in a way that is highly efficient for the contact center to resolve. So it's received. So when one of these I call them proxy requests. When one of these proxy requests hits the contact center, the authentication is already resolved. The all of the information the call center agent needs to complete the task is there on the screen, and then there's limited actions that the call center agent can take based on the type of ticket. And so it's extremely efficient for humans to manually resolve.
I love that part about the efficiency. And as you mentioned, for me, I think the problem becomes when we're starting to say that bots will completely eliminate humans, because maybe in the future that will happen. We're not at this stage. And everyone that's saying that this is going to be the case in 5 months, 1 year,
No.
I don't believe it, because there's the other thing that I wanted to discuss with you is the legal part. What do we do when technology fails?
Yeah.
We're talking that there is a bug agreement and then somebody hacks the system is down, or there is a glitch and something happens, because we're working with technology. We know that this happens all the time.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. in going back to this that I was
And
just describing, and we can explore it in different scenarios also, because I think there's a lot of legal implications all throughout the industry. And this is so the Contact Center AI Association, one of the pillars of our work is what we call the quarterly legal update. I got a lot of heat for this. When I was first starting the association, I was like, hey guys, we need a quarterly legal update. And everyone's like, dude, you're saying that because you're a lawyer. And I was like, no, Doug, trust me.
no,
And they're
no,
like,
no,
it's
no,
gonna
no,
be
no.
interesting. We
Yes.
need it. It is insane, the volume and the stakes for the litigation in the United States surrounding the use of AI in customer support operations. The big brands using technology from big vendors, where you think people would think these things through. And then what's happening is you have these creative plaintiffs lawyers pulling up state laws from 20, 30 years ago that deal with wiretapping or deal with biometric information. And they're saying, oh, maybe this will apply. And I can go ahead and give like a tip here, like a little pro tip for the way these plaintiffs are finding they are looking at the patents of the vendors, especially for the biometrics cases. This is like low-hanging fruit for the biometrics cases, which are mostly coming out of Illinois. They are so in Illinois, it is illegal to use to capture someone's biometric identifiers, which includes a voice print, without their prior written consent. With their written consent. So getting their consent over the phone that you're recording it and using AI, insufficient. Written consent.
Dang.
And what's happening is these plaintiffs' lawyers can look at patents of AI vendors in the call center space, and in their patents, all of these are trying to sound like they're doing all these like really cool, innovative, and unique things. And so they're putting in there that they're using biometrics and voice prints in their patents. And all a plaintiff lawyer needs to do is just say, look, it's in the patent. And maybe at trial, you can prove, okay, no, we're not actually capturing voice prints in the way that would infringe in this law. But it's not going to go. None of these cases are going to trial. They're all settling. Because the stakes are so high. I believe, if my recollection serves me correctly, I think in Illinois, it's $2,000 per violation for every time it's done negligently, and it's $5,000 per violation for every time that you knowingly capture someone's voice print. And so so to do the math, it's take every call from the state of Illinois and multiply it by 5,000. And so none of these cases are going to trial. They're settling for probably tens of millions of dollars. So anyways, go back to the way they're getting their targets. And I know I'm going on a tirade here. This is fascinating. They identify the vendors that have voice prints or biometrics state identified in their patents, in particular that are handling voices, inbound voice calls, like technology for inbound voice calls. And then they find the companies, the brands are publicly associated with that vendor. And so a lot of vendors will have client testimonials on their website, or they'll have a conference. They'll put on a conference, an annual conference, and they'll invite the brands to come and speak at their conference about how they're using their technology. We even had one case last year. It's actually honestly sad. A prominent retailer in the U.S. was sued for using a prominent technology in customer support, and the CX manager was named by name in the class action lawsuit because they said this person, comma, the CX manager for this entity, comma, admitted to using this technology, and as the evidence for that admission, in quotes, I'll say, anyone listening, that admission in quotes was their testimonial on the vendor's website.
Yay. Wow. Wow. And one thing that they're going to say is that I'm currently dealing for the past, I don't know how many years, with deploying WFM tools in a lot of countries. And I would say that the laws in Europe are so strict and so tight that even traditional WFM tool that has some slight deviations from the law, not happening.
Yeah.
So just imagine if we're talking about AI, because we currently don't have actually many laws allowing for AI. We're just basically trying to wing it to see where we can get away with it in which country and in which not. So I'm always fascinated by companies that are speaking directly to the efficiency about AI when you don't even know whether you can deploy it or how can you deploy it and use it.
Yeah, that's a great point. That's a great point. And I don't like legal seminars, and I was attending one recently, and I was just my only reflection was like, lawyers bring no value to society, like no productive value to society. They're not moving except for the ones that are doing like important, like they're saving communities from like poisonous water. And like actually like there are some lawyers that are like really, at least when it like really fighting the good fight. But when it comes to a lot of the legal profession, it's just kind of like making sure everyone's following these rules that sometimes are not actually preventing any actual harm. And so I don't think in a lot of these cases that there's actual consumer harm. And I don't think any of these AI vendors or companies using their tool have malicious intent. I think they genuinely are trying to serve their customers. And you have greedy plaintiffs lawyers who are trying to be opportunistic. All of that said, I'm an advocate for adopting this technology and running forward with it, any risk of litigation,
But
and
John,
being
no,
smart about it. Being smart
John,
about it is don't publicly identify on your website that you're using it unless you're 100% positive that it's a very low risk technology, like
but I
ProxyLink.
don't stop you because I have one problem with this. I also don't think that there is a company that's going to be malicious in the way that they're using technology process or whatever. My problem is that we're speaking on behalf of the customer. And I'm always saying I am a customer as well. When I get a call and I get the stupid repetitive message that I know it's a bot, I get so frustrated. Or
Mm.
when I cannot get to a human, when I want, when as a customer, I pay you, I want to go to a human, and there is no possibility for that. So I guess my problem is what if, from a psychological perspective, which I think even Sam Altman was talking about it, sometimes we just want to speak to humans. That's it. I don't care how passionate or adequate or good your bot is. I just want to know that there is a human. What do we do then?
Yeah. Escalation to a human is as fast as possible is super important when a consumer desires that. But I have a question for you. I'm curious on your perspective on you hit on the frustration that consumers face when they hit a bot, just because it's an inconvenience to their day. Do you think that there's additional frustration on how that call may be used? Let's say that call is used as training data for an
Yeah.
AI model. No personal information is used. Nothing private or proprietary. Nothing that can be linked back to the consumer. But do you think that raises like almost like ickiness factor with an average consumer?
So I've been spending a lot of time to reflect for myself why I'm so annoyed with bots. And maybe it's the level that bots are at the moment, maybe because I know how a lot of companies are using data and how is it stored. And sometimes it's also because from legal perspective, I want to know that I can look for my rights and I want to know that there is going to be someone responsible that cannot hide behind technology and some kind of agreements or user agreements. So I think, first of all, for me, interaction with humans, I don't know, it's very important. I would opt in for a bot or for, assistant if it's something that I truly do not care about. It's book me an appointment at a hair salon or whatever it is, like I can use very, very fast. But if I decide to approach you or your business and company and I'm deciding that it's okay for me to spend the time with you, then I want to know that you're going to be respectful enough to face me.
That is such a good point. That is such a good point. Yeah, it's funny. At the most recent meeting, the one in San Jose last week, one of the call center leaders just asked the group, has anybody here ever had a positive experience with a chatbot? Like ever in any circumstance? And nobody could say anything positive. And several prominent companies were represented at the table. But one caveat though, which is very interesting, two people brought this up, is that United Airlines, they've really increased the quality of their proactive notifications to consumers. So I was flying on United out there because I'm in the Southeast United States, and what happened was when my first flight landed in, I think, Denver, right when I take my phone off airplane mode, I have a text message from United waiting for me saying, "Hey, you're arriving at this gate. Your next flight is taking off at this other gate, and this is how long it will take you to walk there." I was like, man, that's good. That was a good customer experience. It uses automation. It uses AI. I'm sure in some, maybe no AI is involved in that. Who knows? But it's an automated customer experience that was absolutely fantastic. Similar, someone else had the same thing to say about United. So I applaud United for that, what they've done there. Secondly, there was somebody at the table who said that they got a text message from their barber and said, "Hey, how's it going? I noticed it's been about I don't know how long, maybe like a month and a half since you've come in. Would you be interested in stopping in for a haircut? We have some availability this week." And it was actually, he was like, "Oh yeah, sure." It is all through SMS. He's like, "Sure, I'd love to." And he scheduled a time. And he says it wasn't until he was like halfway through the conversation that he realized he was talking with a bot. But he said he really appreciated it. He really appreciated that because he did need a haircut because the bot was reaching out to him at the appropriate time, right? They had the algorithm in place to know how frequently this person gets haircuts, and it was convenient to. So yeah, I think there's a time for it, but I agree with you 100%. The way it's been approached over the past decade has been awful. It's been absolutely awful.
I think we're just not considering human psychology. And actually, the whole time that we're speaking, I'm dying to ask you a question that I'm thinking about for the last good probably 8 months. And we're speaking about the United States right now, but I guess this is a question that's valid in every single country. You know that there are a lot of cases where you're calling 911 and the call is not handled in the correct way by the dispatcher, right? And they have to type in manually all the details that they're hearing on the phone, and they need to contact the police or an ambulance or whatever, and they need to stay with you on the phone. And I'm wondering, in those high stress emergency situations, how many people will opt in to talk to a bot versus a human? And
I think nobody would. Actually, it sounds crazy. I actually had to call 911 this morning. Yeah, I had to call 911 this morning, and I got a human. If I got a bot, I would have flipped out. I would have felt like society has failed me, dramatically failed me this morning, and so it's that there's a lot of circumstances where that's absolutely unacceptable. But the flip side of this is, like you said, there's a lot of disclosures that need to be made by the representative. There's a lot of typing that needs to be done by the representative. That should 100% all be done by AI. Yeah, you should have AI, keeping a transcript of the conversation and making like a checkbox, checking the boxes, making sure all the disclosures are made. If they're not made, providing visual reminders to the agent to make those disclosures. And it should be just transcribing and summarizing all of these calls. Call center agents have a very tough job. And it's interesting. I think it can depend on, I've heard some people say that when you eliminate those types of tasks, you're eliminating some of the downtime, because you're eliminating some of the decompression that some agents kind of like. If imagine you're constantly on one 911 call, and then you're on the next 911 call, then you're on the next 911 call, and then then compare that to, and like AI is just transcribing, and AI is just feeding you 911 calls as fast as possible, right? So as compared to, like between each 911 call, you have a few minutes to take notes. That might be, especially if it's something that's almost like traumatic. In some cases, it might almost be like therapeutic, because one of the ways, like in counseling, you process information through speaking.
Mhm.
And that's why talking with friends is so healthy. About talking with somebody about your problems is extremely healthy. And most call center tasks are not that intense. But I've heard that said before, though, that when you start automating a lot of the after call work, you can increase intensity.
That's true. Yeah, and that's, I think, where the conversation starts. If we automate absolutely everything, then we wouldn't even need humans. Then to just let the bot handle everything, and then we can pay premium, if you will, specifically to be handled by a human. Which I guess it's a fair point for me. I just want to know that I have the option because I'm that type of a customer. I want someone to pay me attention. But it's absolutely fascinating because I think we're entering the stage where laws have to be changed for the adoption of AI. But how fast does that happen?
Yeah, it's going to be slow. Right now, all of the laws, there's a ton of laws being implicated, existing laws. What
Hmm.
companies need to watch out for today are the laws that were enacted in 1989 and everyone's forgotten about. And there's been no litigation on them in over a decade. And all of a sudden, some creative plaintiff's lawyer is dusting off the books and saying, look at this one. Look at this one. That's where you see a lot of the activity today. That the dust will settle around those over time
Hmm.
because all of these different theories will be tested, and companies like the one out of Illinois, we're not getting a lot of legal clarity because all those cases are settling because the stakes are so high. But so they're not coming to a conclusion. There's no finality. There's no clarity from the judges on what's allowed and what's not allowed. But companies are learning how to avoid the circumstance of getting caught in that trap. And so as the dust settles, we're going to have a proliferation of state laws, at least in the United States. I'm not sure how it works in Europe, honestly, when it comes to the European Union. If you have individual countries that have this, is that kind of like the US where you have like France might have a specific law on regulating employment, and then you have the European Union also having,
Yep.
yeah.
Yep. So it's gonna take a while, but before we wrap up, any last words of wisdom, passion about AI? I think we might have to continue that conversation. And one thing that before we end up, I want you to mention is how do people find the AI association? How they get in touch with you? How do they find you?
Yeah, yeah. The last words of wisdom I'll just share is there's a tremendous when it comes to just to sharing the pulse on the industry, as like if what contact center leaders are expressing are the most interest or most pressing concerns to them today, and just in case other people are sharing the same things, to know where you can find that community is over the past few months, it's been the deployment of voice AI. There's a big gap in the industry among the number of contact center leaders who have deployed voice AI, and which is so fascinating. In the past, a lot of this technology stuff has been deployed by IT departments or by the self-help departments,
Mm-hmm.
the self-service department, self-help service departments. And the generative AI, conversational generative AI voice is better managed by the contact center leaders that are managing voice conversations all day long. This is really with more so in their domain. All of these tools are becoming so user friendly and that you don't need to be an IT professional. It's actually more suitable to be a contact center leader or someone who's in charge of overseeing human voice conversations and managing human voice conversations. But the gap between the number of contact center leaders who have interest in voice AI and the ones who've, especially generative AI, and the ones who've deployed it is massive, 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 massive. So that's where over the next probably few quarters, we're going to be focusing a lot of our energy and attention on helping find or identifying the contact center leaders who have developed that experience in their own organizations and having them share their insights and lessons learned with others who are now exploring that path. And then secondly, it's more fresh, but it is starting to be inbound requests from AI. And I promise I did not instigate that conversation inside the association. I try to keep a very clear bifurcation between my role in the association and at ProxyLink. But that has become the second largest topic of interest is what do we do? my agents are getting calls from AI, and what do we do about this? And even just today, I saw a post, about this on LinkedIn on the AI vendor side, providing tips on how to avoid your AI from being flagged as AI. And it's getting to a point where a lot of call centers are having a difficult time even distinguishing human from AI communication. And so that's another big topic. If anyone's interested in just networking with and sharing insights and experiences and building friendships with other leaders who are similarly situated, the Contact Center AI Association's website is ccaia.org. For Contact Center AI Association, so ccaia.org. And then for ProxyLink, which is the service that I started last year, which solely focuses on authenticating inbound AI calls and chats and all that good stuff, it's ProxyLink, proxylink.co. And I'm active on LinkedIn. And so just John, there's a lot of John Walters in the world, but yeah, John Walter on LinkedIn.
Perfect. Thank you so much for that, John. And I'm actually very excited and very intrigued for joining that association, because what you were mentioning in the conversation that we had before we kicked off the recording, I told you, I hate the topic of AI when people cannot give me examples, and you've been nothing but giving example after example, which is exactly what can make or break how we use technology or whether we use technology. So I'm definitely going to continue that conversation.
We'd love for you to get involved. Let's do it. Let's get
Perfect.
Well, also, thank you for taking the time to talk. It's always a joy to catch up. I love seeing what you're working on, and let's anytime. If you ever want any guests, one of the things that the association is starting to do is there's a lot of different industry organizations that are constantly seeking contact center leaders who have experience and are willing to speak on these topics. And we're starting to help them to find speakers. And so if you ever want someone on your podcast who has experience deploying this stuff in their own operations, I'd be happy to bring someone from the association to help share their insights. And we would love to get you involved to help share your lessons learned also.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Let's arrange it and chat soon. You're always welcome on the show. Thanks for joining us today. I'm your host, Irina Mateva, founder of WFM, where we believe that every business and its people are unique and deserve the right solution to their challenges. If you need support with workforce management, we're just a message away. Get in touch at irina@rightwfm.com or info@rightwfm.com. If you like the content and would like to support the show, please subscribe to WFM Unfiltered on your favorite podcast platform, leave a review, and follow me on LinkedIn. You can also show some love to our great sponsors. For more information about them, check out the episode notes. This is your place for real WFM, so to suggest guests or topics, get in touch at irina@rightwfm.com. See ya!